So if you guys have been around the channel for a while, you'll know that I love to dive into the backstory of Modern Warfare, the Black Ops universe, and just Call of Duty as a whole. And recently, we've been diving deeper and deeper into that Modern Warfare story, looking at individual characters like Captain Price, Farah, Alex, and many of the other characters in that universe. But it's interesting because there is one character who I haven't yet dived into, but is in every single Modern Warfare game. Every single one of them. 1, 2, 3, and even the new one, Modern Warfare 2019. Now, you may be wondering why I haven't dived into this character, and it's simple. He's not really one of the main characters in the game. However, this character has had one of the biggest impacts over the overall Modern Warfare universe and story. So today, what we are going to be doing is diving into that character and looking at all of his small appearances throughout the Modern Warfare story and discussing how exactly they have impacted that overall Modern Warfare story. And if you haven't read the title, you haven't looked at the thumbnail, and you haven't figured out who I'm talking about by now, today we are looking at the full story of Nikolai. Now, an interesting thing about Nikolai is he's actually one of the oldest characters in the Call of Duty franchise. As we find out in the original trilogy, he was born on August 1969 in, of course, the Soviet Union. Now, as far as what this means for the series, in the original trilogy, he was around the age of 40, whereas at the launch of Modern Warfare 2019, he would actually be 50 years old, which, like I said, makes him one of the oldest characters in the franchise. Now, as far as his background, we found out that he is a former Soviet Union senior sergeant, and he worked for an anti-tank rifle unit. He was also a part of the Soviet-Afghan War, which ranged from 1979 to 1989. Now, although he was a part of the Soviet Union, he decided to team up with the SAS and be a kind of undercover informant for Captain Price. And this is where the story of Call of Duty 4 begins. In one of the very first missions of Call of Duty 4, Bravo 6 Division, aka some of the SAS soldiers, including Captain Price, get on a cargo ship and end up finding some ultra-nationalist intelligence about planned nuclear operations. As it turns out, the person that provided them the intel on this is none other than Nikolai.
Captain Price, Al-Assad just executed President Al-Falani on national television.
The Americans have plans for Al-Assad, and it's too late to do anything for Al-Falani. But in less than 3 hours, codename Nikolai will be executed.
Nikolai, sir?
Nikolai is our informant in the ultra-nationalist camp. He supplied the intel on the cargo ship operation.
Now, one thing that I've never heard anyone talk about with Nikolai is we don't actually know his real name. As you can tell, Captain Price there says his code name is Nikolai, so we don't actually know who he really is. But as far as this next mission, the SAS have to go in quickly and save Nikolai, because he is their informant for the ultra-nationalists, aka the army that Imran Zakhaev is using. Now, Imran Zakhaev finds out about Nikolai and is going to assassinate him to prove a point about people switching sides. So your job is to go and save Nikolai. And after doing so, you extract Nikolai on a helicopter, and he gives you some really, really important news.
Have the Americans already attacked Al-Assad?
No, their invasion begins in a few hours. Why?
The Americans are making mistakes. They will never take Al-Assad alive.
Now, Nikolai wants to warn the Americans that going to invade and take down Al-Assad is actually a trap, and as we find out, that is where the nuke goes off and kills 30,000 American soldiers. But he's actually unable to warn them because on the way to do so, their helicopter actually gets taken down. Now, Nikolai, Soap, Price, and a few other soldiers manage to survive this, and with the help of an AC-130, Nikolai is able to extract himself. But before he's extracted on a helicopter, he gives Captain Price and Soap the location of where Al-Assad actually is, and it isn't actually far from where they currently are. And that's pretty much all Nikolai actually does in Call of Duty 4. Everything after this, he's working behind the scenes trying to give intel to Captain Price and Soap. That is until Modern Warfare 2. Now, Modern Warfare 2 is where Nikolai's role changes a bit. He's no longer the intelligence character, however, you do hear him over the radios a few times throughout the game. However, what his role is more so the wheelman throughout Modern Warfare 2. And in fact, this is kind of the role in the group that he retains throughout most of the rest of the Modern Warfare games. And the first circumstance that you actually see this within Modern Warfare 2 is in the mission Hornet's Nest. When you and the crew are trying to escape the favela, the man that comes to your rescue on the helicopter is none other than Nikolai himself. Similarly, in the Boneyard mission, Nikolai is actually the one that comes to your rescue.
Captain Price, I'm taking off in 1 minute. You better hurry if you want right out of here.
He is actually the one who is flying the airplane that you manage to drive into and eventually escape. But most importantly, at the very end of the Modern Warfare 2 campaign, after Captain Price and Soap take down General Shepard, Soap is brutally wounded. He is very close to death after getting stabbed in the abdomen. But the person to come to the rescue is none other than Nikolai. Nikolai helps Soap back into the helicopter and plays a much bigger role in Modern Warfare 3. So Modern Warfare 3 picks up right after the events of Modern Warfare 2, and right away, Captain Price and Nikolai are unloading Soap from the helicopter to get him some medical attention and get him help. Now, shortly after this, they are down a man, so what they need to do is recruit someone new to Task Force 141, even though they're disavowed. And Nikolai recommends a Russian soldier named Yuri. He is apparently super dedicated and loyal, and those are both qualities that Captain Price likes. Now, we won't go into Yuri's whole backstory because I've already done that one in a video, but if you want to check that out, I'll link it down in the description. But as far as the rest of Nikolai's story, it honestly isn't too fascinating in Modern Warfare 3. Essentially, he's just a taxi driver in a helicopter who drives around Task Force 141 to different locations and provides overwatch from the helicopter. The one situation where this is a little bit more interesting is when his helicopter gets shot down in the sandstorm and you have to rescue him. Other than that, like I said, just a taxi driver in a helicopter. Where his story gets definitely a lot more interesting is in the new Modern Warfare 2019.
Okay, so let's cut to the chase.
What do you suggest?
A business trip.
Unsanctioned?
Black.
Who's your team?
Some old comrades.
And Old Comrades indeed is the mission where Nikolai makes his return to the Modern Warfare franchise, where in most of the campaign Nikolai is nowhere to be seen. Later on he gets introduced in the mission where you hunt and track down the Butcher, the Wolf's right-hand man for the Al-Qatala army. And essentially Nikolai plays his same role in this Modern Warfare game as he did in the previous 3. Once again, the wheelman. While Captain Price and Kyle Garrick, aka Gaz, hunt down the Butcher on the streets, Nikolai takes to the vehicle and eventually is actually the man to take down the Butcher.
Nikolai! We got him!
It's hard to run with concussion, no?
And then in the following cutscene, we see that not only did Nikolai capture the Butcher, but also his family, so that you are able to use them as leverage to get information out of the Butcher. And this is really the only area of the campaign where you actually get to see Nikolai in action. However, post-campaign, you find out that Nikolai actually has a much larger part in the overarching story of Modern Warfare. You see, after the campaign is over, Kate Laswell and Komarov come up with something known as Armistice, a combination of the Allegiance and Coalition divisions to come together to take down Al-Assad, Imran Zakhaev, and Viktor Zakhaev. And one of those people leading the way with that is none other than Nikolai, as we can see from this post-credit cutscene. And even further, in the most recent cutscene put out by Modern Warfare, we see that Nikolai is actually one of the people working with Kate Laswell directly as one of the higher-ups within Armistice.
Nikolai?
Yes, Laswell. Good to hear your voice.
SIGINT suggests target Denver. Schedule the priority call with an unknown. Let's go live.
Now, as we know from the recent Warzone and Season 3 trailers, Armistice has fallen, which means it appears as though Nikolai is probably going to play a bigger role going forward as one of the leaders of the Coalition division within Modern Warfare. And for now, this is the full story of Nikolai, but there is a lot of potential for his story moving forward. And I think the more and more cutscenes we see, the more and more we get to learn about Nikolai. Hence why I decided to make this video at this point. But as of right now, this is the full story of Nikolai. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, it is always appreciated if you do hit that like button. If you like what you see, want to stay up to date on all my videos, make sure you hit the subscribe button, turn notifications on, and let me know who you'd like to see me cover in a story video in the future down in the comments below. But as always, I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, peace out.
We are reaching for the stars.